Morning from the jungle, from the Divergent One. I wanted to catch up on a few topics and questions that are posted on random threads and just remind everybody now there's a Q&A thread up. So post all your cool questions and topics for discussion on there if you will, and that way it'll be much easier for me to keep up with them because I'd like to. Um, Try to keep the questions somewhere in the ballpark of themes that fit on this channel. If it's too obscure and it doesn't fit the algorithm for this channel, um, I probably won't respond. That's not a. It should be no insult to you. Just realize you got to kind of find a way to reword it to make it fit within these themes. Should be pretty easy because true martial arts is mind, body, and spirit. Any other announcements? I may have to pause this video. The neighbors, they run a party bus line among other things, and their speakers are like ultra loud. There's no regulations about that in Puerto Rico. So when they're over there playing bits of songs, it's so loud I can't hear myself talk. And a lot of it is massively copyrighted. Like it won't even let me post a video if I let that be recorded in it. So if I quickly reach and pause this video, that's probably why. Trying to think of any other announcements. Um, yeah, when someone has a chance, if you timestamp these different topic videos that have multiple topics in one of it, really helps the whole group. Just sometime when you have the time to listen to the whole video and mark where each topic starts. That's always very cool. Everybody appreciates it. Just helps out the group. Because remember, it's a group. You know, some of these conversations are between some of you guys. I'm not even in it, and this is just kind of a hub for it, and that's all good. Okay, enough blathering. Let's get to it. So it says somebody brought up that I talk a lot about magnesium and not potassium. Do I not think potassium is important? Basically, of course, you know, it's an essential mineral. It's just as important. I've gone on about magnesium a lot because there's times where it really saved me when I didn't know how deficient I was until I started taking it, and it corrected a lot of things. But magnesium's just as important, and remember, everybody's electrolyte balance is going to be unique to them, just like digestion and lifestyle and everything else. So if anything, I'd recommend to athletes or people who sweat a lot for whatever reason, um, make sure you have good amounts of potassium and magnesium in your diet somewhere. I don't go recommending extra sodium and calcium. Most people know sodium comes with certain risks if you overdo it. Calcium does too. This is lesser known. Um, it's terrible, really, the way calcium is prescribed to say, like old ladies with bad bones, they think, oh, you know, take these calcium pills, that'll make it better. When you take calcium by itself, usually it just builds up in the wrong places in the body. Some of you guys know from past nutritional stacks I used to share and so forth before being hated off the scene for being ahead of my time. I would never, I would never have anybody take calcium unless they're also taking magnesium and vitamin K2 minimal. Those are the things I would add to it to make it safer. Different people are more prone to calcium buildups in their veins, in their organs, in their brain. Obviously, calcium's essential, but a lot of people, myself included, the body's very efficient with it, and it easily builds up. Whereas potassium and magnesium, you go right through them. You need a very constant supply because your body's not building them up. It's just basically going through them all the time. So that's my basic take on that. It's another essential mineral, essential for life. So take care of your potassium intake, just like magnesium. It'd be another good one to emphasize. Since I moved here to where it's, you know, it's hot and damp, and I sweat even more than I used to, um, my natural like dietary cravings have shifted me into eating a lot of foods that are higher in potassium, which also this environment grows a lot of foods higher in potassium because nature's, you know, wise. Things are there for a reason. A lot of things we're growing and a lot of things that were already growing on this land when we got here, naturally high in potassium, and it just makes sense. So I don't take a potassium supplement. They're actually hard to find. There's laws against them or some regulated nonsense in the US, from what I remember. And that's fine because people are reckless and they, you know, they might hurt themselves even with a mineral or whatever. Now, me personally, I don't believe in regulations. I like that the neighbors can play their music so loud that it can make your ears bleed. I like that in Puerto Rico you can do a lot of things you couldn't do in the States. I like that the cops here aren't really out to get you. They're just there if you need them, you know. Anyway, enough of all that rant. Potassium, super important like magnesium. Good point to bring up. The other question I wanted to cover in this quick video, thoughts on creatine monohydrate, for not for bodybuilding, but it's been shown to improve brain function, nerve function, help fight dementia and old age. Okay, so to quickly recap some things I went over about creatine on past channels, and then to comment on your specifics here. Uh, that if you're going to take creatine, I do recommend monohydrate. It's more dependable. The other forms it's questionable whether they work right at all, and they're more unstable. And I think creatine monohydrate's even a bit unstable because I've had everything from batches that blew me up like scary, like people wouldn't believe I was just taking creatine if they saw the difference in the mirror in like 2 weeks. And then I've had batches that they didn't add anything to me. So I think it was a dud batch. It got too hot or maybe it got damp or who knows what. I think it's a little bit of a fragile substance, so where you get it from, what condition it's in, can have a huge difference on what results you get. Supposedly there's responders and non-responders. Muscle-wise, I was always a super responder. I'd get massive, you know, not so much strength increases, but just the way I looked in the mirror. I'd just be like swole fast from creatine when I got a good batch. But that said, I would also used to get kidney stones while I was on a creatine cycle, because despite all the hype selling it and then the money they've had to pay for the advertisement to make all the studies look the way they want, the simple mathematical scientific truth is that your kidneys do have to work a lot harder to deal with creatine when you're taking it. Like any supplement, it's something that your body already makes. Well, not any supplement. Some supplements are things that your body doesn't make, you have to eat. Creatine is one of these things your body makes. Obviously, you're jacking up the level in your cells when you're taking it as a supplement. Most people do that for bodybuilding or other athletic endeavors. Like I said, I never really noticed a performance enhancement from it. Just like from a bodybuilding perspective, it definitely blew me up when I had a good batch. I don't take it anymore personally. Now, I'm not saying I never will. Who knows? I could change my mind, try a creatine protocol in the future for some reason. It's not like I'm against it. I just think, knowledge is important. You need to consider all these things. Hey, buddy, could you not do that? Matthias, could you not do that?
Okay.
It's distracting me, bud. So, if you have fragile kidneys, there's something going on there. Your kidneys are already overworked. Or maybe your kidneys are sensitive to creatine like I think mine are. You might want to consider extreme moderation or just not using it. Hey, uh, like you listed here, there are some benefits, especially for people that are lacking creatine, like maybe their body's not building enough for health reasons. So now remember, research studies always have an agenda because somebody had to pay for those studies. And the ones that are going to make it look positive are usually somebody got some cash from the creatine people, to kind of favor the bright side. So I'm not saying there isn't a bright side. Certain people, like you say, especially older people with like dementia, have had brain benefits. There are studies where certain people had nerve benefits. In that sense, you could say it's like any supplement. If you were lacking it to begin with, you're going to get some positives when you take it. Just like vitamin C, is everybody going to benefit from a vitamin C supplement? No, I don't. I think my body makes its own vitamin C because I ate nothing but raw meat for 5 years and I had no health problems. I currently eat a vegan diet if you're curious, but it's a whole different topic. I've tried a lot of diets. My point is that with supplements, almost any supplement, you can find some people that are going to get some pretty awesome benefits from it because they were totally lacking that, And then others will say, nah, it didn't do anything. And others will say, nah, it messed me up. And that's all true. Everybody's balance, where they're starting from when they take a supplement, is different. Some people can really use it. Others already have enough of that, or maybe even too much in some cases. So does creatine have uses? Sure. Am I glad it exists? Sure. I think it's a pretty neat substance. Even if I don't use it myself, I think it's pretty interesting. But I just think it's something to be aware of. Your kidneys have to do extra work, if nothing else. So for whatever positives it may bring, just beware. The kidneys are some of your most important longevity and vitality organs in your body, and you just want to make sure um, that you care about your own kidney health. Let me just put it that way. That's all I'd say. You know, use with caution, use wisely, pay attention to your body and all the signs and signals it's giving you, and then decide, put it on your own scales and decide, is this supplement uh, really worth it for me? Yes or no. And either way, hey, just make your own decision. Be as informed as you can. Try to be grounded about it and practical, and you should be just fine. I'm sure some people have gotten a lot of benefits from creatine. Some people have gotten none. Some people have hurt themselves with it. So it's like a lot of supplements that way. It's going to really depend. It's going to really depend on the person as to how many benefits versus negatives versus nothing, waste of money. My last batch didn't do anything. I think it was a bad batch. That was like over a year ago. And I was like, why am I making my kidneys do all this extra work? I'm not noticing a single benefit. And because I'm not a bodybuilder anymore, I'm not looking for that magical batch of good creatine that blows me up like it used to. Because like I said, I didn't notice a performance benefit. I didn't get stronger to any appreciable degree. I didn't get faster to any noticeable degree. So to me, it was basically just aesthetic. It was just looks based. And being that I'm not a bodybuilder now, that it's like, why? Why spend the money and work my kidneys when I don't feel any need for it? That's just me. So just consider those factors and make your own decision, and you should be all right. Now, I guess that's it. I'm going to keep this video short, and then if I have time today or tomorrow I'll get on to the next topic. Like, you know what? Forget it. I have a few minutes here. Let's see if I can jump over to the Q&A thread and see if I can get a few of those answered real quick. Bear with me. Got to scroll. The satellite internet here, not so good, so it's going to take a second to get over there. Almost. Here we go. Come on, buddy. Almost, guys. Almost. Almost. Okay. Bring up the questions. Here we go. Okay, so just in no particular order, scrolling down as we go. I have a question here. Says, this one's from Bob Cotial. You guys let me know if you want your names mentioned. It might help when you hear your name, so you can be alerted that, I'm covering one of your questions at that moment. You can lend a special ear to it. I don't know. Okay, how would you define a proper workout routine? I'm an Indian, and since yoga is very prevalent... Ooh, loud horsey. Since yoga is very prevalent here, I'm into yoga for my mind and body, but I lift weights as well. And since martial arts is a form of workout as well, do you think including yoga, weight training, body weight training, and martial arts can be a good routine, or is it too much for my mind and body? Well, Bob, really, I cannot answer that for you, because any infinite number of different routines could be made out of those different components. So it's going to come down to you balancing it. There's nothing wrong at all with including all those things. In fact, if done right, they could all complement each other, and they could all complement your life and your abilities, your health, your mind, body, spirit connection. If overdone, of course, they could set you back. You could be overtrained. You could be overtaxed. You could be stressed from all the things you're trying to fit into your day, and that could make you angry and cranky. I know I've done that to myself. Sometimes, maybe you know about Ayurveda, being from India. Sometimes I let the pitta in me get out of control, and I try to pack so much work and achievement and things into one day that I can't possibly do it. I do more than 5 normal mortals would get through, but because I don't do everything perfect and get it all done, then I'm in this horribly pissed off mood, and I'm hard for my family to be around. So you got to balance, you got to balance all your factors of mind and body. But I would say, in and of itself, there's nothing wrong with including all those things in your life. I think if done right, if you can find your personal balance with them, they should all complement each other. So just work with that. Keep adjusting it. Keep adjusting it. If you feel overexerted, spend less time on one or more of those things, maybe less days per week. Start, when it comes to this thing, like let's take the weightlifting. There's people who lift weights once every 10 days and get good results. There's many ways to go about it, depending on what you're lifting and how, and what your lifting workout is going to be. That's just one example. So one thing that I've done in the past and I'm willing to do again is, if people want me to help construct them a personal diet or workout system or things of that nature, you can get in contact with me and give me a donation. Make a donation. We will talk by email, and as I can sort out a lot of the particulars of your particular case, I'll be able to help say, okay, here's what I would do. If I was in your shoes, if those were my goals, if this was how many hours I had for this, if this was my diet, if this is what I know about your body, your health history, your goals, your challenges in life, all these informations will have a back and forth. And when I can piece it together well enough and really put myself in your shoes, I can write out for you what I would do, how I would construct all those training elements into one system. People have taken me up a lot of times in the past on constructing different dietary and supplement regimens. Those things I'm really good at because I have just unbelievable amounts of experience. I'm an extreme person and I'm a creative person. So I've tried pretty much everything and I've pushed everything to the limits, and I've done every diet you've heard of and some you haven't. Every kind of workouts you've heard of and some you haven't. And I've mixed all these different things over. I have more than 2 decades. I have well over 20 years of experience with different things of that nature, testing them on myself. And I used to be a certified personal trainer, and I got to test some of it on others and see the vast difference between how other people's bodies would react to some of the same dietary or training factors mine did. And I can apply all that in knowledge. And I've never had a dissatisfied customer as far as those personal consultations. And I can work with you based on your budget. It's just I do it for donations, so that way we can all work it out as friends. But I'm willing to put the time in if you're willing to donate something to my family, and it shows you care and it shows you're really going to use it, and then it's really worth me really putting some time and consideration in asking you some key questions so I can figure out what we're dealing with, and then construct something for you that'll really help you take the next several steps towards whatever your goal is. And at some point down the line, if your body, mind, spirit balance changes and your goals change, we can readjust everything. I've done that with plenty of people and it's worked really well. Just so you know, that's an option. But the way you've worded your question, it's all very going to be individual. It's a very individual thing. There's all these people out there selling books saying, you should do this much weight training and this much running and this much stretching and this much sleeping and this much eating and here's what you should eat. All of that is bullshit, man. People don't even have the same blood type. They don't have the same digestive system at all. They don't have the same body frame. They don't have the same metabolism. Some of us are hot. Some of us are cold. Some of us are fast twitch fiber. Some of us are slow twitch fiber. Some of us have extreme endurance. Some of us are only good for short bursts. Some of us have this mindset, some of us have that mindset. Everybody's mindset's different. So to really help someone, you really have to get personal. And that's why I recommend to everyone, always be working on mastering yourself, not imitating somebody else, because you aren't that other person. You may get some benefits from trying it their way. It may backfire. You'd have to put it on the scales and decide, am I getting more benefits than negatives? But the real key to life is always honing in more and more on your own mind, body, spirit balance and harmony. Of course, that's where you're going to become the most empowered in all things and in any particular thing. So that's my little speech on that. It's a good question, brings up a lot of important things to remind everybody, and it kind of opens the possibility for consultations. I've had a lot of people missing that and asking me about it when they were trying to get a hold of me, and when I kind of disappeared off the grid for a while, and I had to rearrange my life. But I'm getting settled enough now. Depending on how high the demand gets, first come, first serve, I should be able to take care of most of you guys who are currently on this channel who may be interested in any kind of personal consultation for, whatever's a reasonable donation for you. Just putting that out there. Okay. Much love to you and respect. And if you can make any of those questions a little more specific, I might be able to answer it a little better on one of these Q&A type discussions. All right, next question. Uh, Aviram, I hope I'm saying it right. Personally, read more. This is a big one. Okay. Personally, I've been very weak prior to starting lifting. I tried soccer, but because I grew up asthmatic, as did I had a lot of Western medicine fail me, and then herb-based and Ayurvedic rooted treatments healed me. Nice. I'm fine now, but that kept me back when kids my age were pretty athletic. I was always weak. I spent a lot of time sick on a couch, hating my life, wishing I could be out, playing and pushing myself too, man. As a child, I understand the setback thing. When I started lifting, I had the negative belief system, but somehow I felt like my genetics had potential. I could very well be stronger and bigger than average. Gym bro on whatever cycle. I feel like weights have changed my life, but I also know what you said about the excessive end of that spectrum and what it did to you, cost you fights, etc. I want your thoughts on what should classify as resistance training. I have a little experience in martial arts. What steps would you suggest to take to enrich my life holistically, both in the gym and as someone who finds peace living like a warrior monk? Wow. Very philosophical and complex and good questions here. Any one of these I could probably rattle on for an hour easy, but try to be as concise as I reasonably can. I can relate to a lot of what you're saying. It seems like part of what you're asking me is kind of how to adjust one's perspective on what is resistance training, since the world goes as narrow as possible. It's like they're always trying to stay on one page and ignore the rest of the book, Well, start out with the basic grounded approach. Just remind yourself, resistance means resistance. That's resistance right there, right? Isometrics are resistance. And I even use like static contractions for building power without building size. If you want to punch harder, I'll do certain drills where I'll hold my body in position nearing the end of a punch where I want the most brutal knockout power to be, and I'll push against something I can't move just as hard as possible for like 10 seconds, and I may do that 3 to 5 times based on which muscle group and how I'm feeling and how well each set turns out that day, because it just builds density and nervous system power, so you have more power even without gaining size, for the most part, when you do that kind of training. This is why every person I've ever counseled or consulted gets a very different set of instructions from me based on their goals. So you're into lifting, you're somewhat into martial arts, but you're also trying to live balanced. When you say warrior monk, it sounds contradictory. And yet I understand that. That's why I'm such a divergent person. Everything about me seems contradictory to everybody. So I kind of understand where you're coming from. Remember that resistance training is anything. At the end of the day, the people who are impressive, whether they did boring conventional barbell and dumbbell lifts, or they did crazy body weight stuff for hours a day, thousands of push-ups, thousands of squats, or they invented a lot of things to train like I do. At the end of the day, the ones who end up being really impressive are the ones who simply pushed it further. It really was that internal drive, that love, that passion, the willingness to feel more pain, but not really consider it pain. Convince your mind it's easier than it is, so you can push yourself further. The intensity of your training stimulus is the ceiling on what you're possibly going to get for development. Now, that's the yang side, right? How deep can you tear into that muscle? Let's use muscle stimulus. You're also digging into your nerves and everything that makes you stronger. When you push yourself at like fight conditioning, you're going to dig into your heart, your cardio, so much further than you ever have. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt worse than weight training. But you're always, the whole point of going through that pain, right, is to make that tank bigger and deeper, so you have more there. So on the yang side, you have how intense of a stimulus can I pump myself up and get myself in the right mindset to believe I actually enjoy doing it. So I'll take it further. I'll go into deeper water than I ever have before. On the yin side, and this is where the Western world is very blind, there's how in the hell do you actually recover from all that and super compensate and build up from it? So now we're talking about, it's almost like the warrior and the monk. We're talking about that balance, the yang and the yin. How deep into the battle of my muscles or my cardio or all of the above, my nervous system, my coordination, whatever I'm training for, how deep into that battle am I willing to push myself? And then how often is too often? And if you're going to push that deep and that hard, how much time is too much in one session? Because as I've alluded to from many past experiences, overdoing it is a very real thing. I used to have an attitude where I would just beat myself to practically to death with anything I would do in life. And I've experienced over and over that you don't get the best results that way. You get the best results when you take it to the deepest water, you get right to the point, and you take that max stimulus to whatever you're training, whether it's 1 rep strength, punch power, cardio, VO2 max. You take it as far as you can get yourself to take it. The next time you train, you're looking to take it even further, right? But on the inside, you need to take a long enough break, or you need to keep those sessions short enough to be in balance with your recovery, right? So that you're not just surviving, you're actually getting stronger doing this. And the only way to really do that is to monitor yourself and adjust accordingly. If you're pushing yourself real hard and you're not making any gains, try extending the rest between those type of training, or maybe shorten the session. If you don't want to reduce frequency, you're going to have to reduce some of the volume on the intense stuff you're doing. You have to be able to adjust all those parameters and then watch the results. On the inside, your meditation, your ability to calm your mind, your ability to actually get at peace. I know that's really hard at times, depending on what all is going on in life. Your ability to understand your own body and have a diet and a sleep and a lifestyle and a way of thinking patterns. You could even call it mental discipline. In the West, they think mental discipline just means you need to push yourself harder till you puke and collapse. Well, there's an opposite side to mental discipline. The ability to put all that out of your mind when you need to. How do I get this fight, this war, out of my head and find complete peace and meditate on a mountaintop in my own mind and pull in chi energy from around me, because I'm not in a war inside. I'm actually now in recovery mode. My battery is sucking things in instead of just burning things out. So your yang will only ever be able to get as big as your yin is going to be able to get deep. Okay? So realize now you're an orb. Yin and yang is really two-dimensional, but they're really describing something that's 360. It's bigger than all that. But making it into yin and yang, or in the Ayurvedic system of energies, 3 energies, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, these simplified ways of taking all energies and then working with them can really help you make progress, because you're not trying to adjust 10,000 things now. You're just trying to adjust 2 or 3. If you can divide everything in your lifestyle into 2 or 3 categories, it gets a lot easier to adjust them and watch the results. And just hone in on the results you're looking for, you know? So that's the kind of answers people get here, as you know me well. You know, I'll never give you a generic formula, because that's like me treating you like you're a sheep and you're the same as all the farm animals. You're not. As a human, you have more diversity than the rest of the animals. If you said, you know, I have a sheep, a literal sheep, what should I do for its diet for this? I could give you a list, because a sheep's a sheep pretty much. There's very little individuality, right? As a human, unfortunately, many of them live as if they are sheep, but the truth is, you have so much individual potential to be unique, that the only way to continually improve is to continually get further in touch with yourself. You know? And again, like, guys, I'm open to consultations for donations. Make it worth my time, and I will more than make it worth yours. And I'll keep asking you key questions till I can really put myself in your shoes, mind, body, and spirit, as well as human communication can get us to. And then I can, you know, write you out, here's what I would do, aiming towards those goals, coming from where you are right now. Here's how, me personally, I would approach that, you know. That's what I can write out for you. So that's that. You guys know how I operate. Very good questions. Um, and you went over mindset a bit, and that's very important. I myself, as life has gone on, I've been adjusting more and more away from a neurotic, fear-based, all the things that could go wrong type mindset, and more into a passion and all the things that could go right mindset. And that has opened so many possibilities to me that people get mad and believe I'm lying and think it's not possible. I haven't even shared you know, half the topics of amazing things I've gotten to do and be involved with in life, and people are already in disbelief or awe, and that's simultaneously kind of frustrating and flattering and all that. But at the end of the day, you don't want to let people's criticisms or their compliments get you off your track. You have to keep recentering, get back in your own yin bubble where it's just you and whatever you perceive your source to be. Take in some good energy, rebalance yourself, know all things are possible, and see what you're authentically inspired from your own soul to continue to bloom and blossom and expand into. See what your most authentic soul vision is, because that way you're working on one of your natural strengths, and your soul, your spirit will get more involved with your mind and your body, because you're inviting your own spirit in. Like, what is the bigger possibility for my life? Bigger than my mind is willing or able to imagine or believe in. Bigger than my body could ever handle. But let's see how far we can expand our genetics, because we can. They are way more plastic than science has figured out yet for some reason. Or maybe they have and they just don't want people to know that because they need everybody buying the drugs and living in fear and being controlled and being, weak and frail and dependent. They want a population of dependents that they can use and dispose of, because that's what greed does to people. That's the pig-like nature of humanity. If I can control them all and keep them all weaker and dumber than me, then I can get them to do whatever I want. I can get them to buy whatever I want. Now me, I exited the circle of cowardice a long time ago, so my philosophy is like, no, I'm going to give people more than they can handle. I usually end up regretting it. But it's like, hey, feel free to surprise me and become the next best thing that nobody ever thought of, me included. I'd like to see that. Because your life here is going to, in the scheme of things, it's going to be short, whether it's 100 years or 10 or a million. It's going to be short compared to eternity. The point was, what kind of a light, what kind of an expansive thing could I be? How could I touch that world while I was there? So if in some way I activate things in you that ends up changing the whole world, I mean, wow, I'm super honored. You know what I mean? That's the kind of energy we ought to be passing around to each other, instead of the exact opposite. The petty, small-minded, fear-based, let's hold them all down so everybody's standards are low and nobody thinks anything good's possible, and then I'll look like I'm special when I'm actually mediocre. I hate that. I hate that energy. I don't hate the individuals because they're just unconscious husks that lost their souls a long time ago. Yes, I get mad, lose my temper, and I'm willing to beat them with an inch of their life sometimes. You guys, some of you have seen me at that point. But the truth is, I don't really hate people for being that way. I just hate that mentality is on this planet, limiting humans from a much more rapid expansion and evolution. And they need that. There's so many damn humans on the planet making poor decisions or completely unconsciously just going along with things right now. The planet herself cannot survive, and she's going to have to fight back. And it's going to be ugly when she has to eliminate a lot of the population, because it's not like she can just pick the shitty ones. When it rains on everybody. When it earthquakes on everybody. You know what I mean? So the more consciousness is what's needed. Just like Einstein said, you can't solve any problems with a level of stupidity that created them. And imagination is more important than knowledge. Those are two things Einstein said. Because if you don't have an imagination, your little bit of knowledge is just a prison. It's just data, and it goes nowhere. Imagination is the bubble of mind that gets bigger, that allows for bigger things to come in. And if you don't have that, you're stuck. And humanity lacks both. They lack all forms of consciousness, but they don't have to. And that's based in beliefs and mindset. Anyway, for this video is like 3 hours. Let's carry on. Cool questions. Let's see if I can get through. Maybe I can get through all these today. Might be a long video. Hopefully somebody will timestamp it pretty quickly, so people can, scoot right to the topic they may be most interested in on a given day. Okay. Scott O'Neill. Looks like 3 questions, or 4. Okay. Number 1, what are you wanting folk to call you these days? Hmm. I'm kind of open-minded. I've been called a lot of things. People know my real name, that's fine. But I guess the energy of this channel and really the energy in my life, I think it would be cool to be called the Divergent one. It just makes sense to me. Or the Divergence. I don't know. You guys let me know if you think that, if it has a ring to it, a ring of truth, if you think it might stick and be good for the new vision and the new reincarnation of where things are and where they're at and how much better they're really getting. All right, question number 2. Thoughts on Ido Portal's movement, approach to combat sports? I'll be honest, have no idea who that is or what that is. So maybe somebody could get back to you on that. Maybe sometime I'll have a chance to run into that, get to see a piece of that. But, it's interesting to me how little of the names and the things going on out there I'm actually up on, because I don't listen to the radio. I watch very little TV. If I watch TV, it's just some movie or show that I want to see for my own reasons. On the internet, I generally only have time to post, edit, piece together a thumbnail, and throw my own videos, check comments when I can. I don't really have time to sit around and watch other people's stuff. We're building an off-grid, self-sufficient life here. There's a lot of time and thought goes into it and stuff. I'm working on finding, creating, manifesting my own path back into my pro fighting career. So I'm very, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. I'm very busy in a good way, So there's a lot of references you guys sometimes bring up and I just don't know. So I'll just be honest. 3rd question. I know you used to be a World of Warcraft fan, and you gave me a short blog post. Always pick the half-orc, an idea that resonates. I like the idea of the half-orc, half-human mix. I'm not currently subscribed or anything, but I still have an account. Every so often, like when a new expansion comes out, I tend to jump on, level up some tunes, check out all the new material and have some fun and everything. That's really my only video game that I'm a normal connoisseur of, you might say. But I still take breaks. Yeah, so I'm not really up on it right now. I might get a chance to check out your blog post. I can't guarantee it. We'll see. Number 4, are you bringing the Viking Shaman beard back? Punch absorbing and hides your chin. I have no current plans. Who knows? Sooner or later, there's always that day when I get the hair up my butt to grow a beard. Whether that's anytime soon or not, I have no idea. But the punch absorbing and hides your chin debate is very interesting, because it's one of these very dichotomized, or whatever you call it, debates, and even among professional fighters with a lot of experience, there are 2 very different points of view on that. You brought up the point of view that favors having a beard. Definitely visually, it'll make it a little harder to spot exactly where somebody's chin's at. That said, I think if you're throwing hard anywhere in the area where their chin should be, you should be able to land it fine. I don't know how well that actually tricks the human mind or not. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe. Absorbing energy. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a tiny bit of cushion. It's so tiny, just bending some hair. When you're talking about 1,000 PSI, I don't know if it's pounds per square inch, but maybe 1,000 pounds of impact force on a really good, hard, crazy punch. I don't know that, some chin hairs are really going to decelerate it enough it would mean anything. So it's hard to say. And I have, on the other side of the debate, there's guys that say a beard will make the punch stick better. It'll make it not slide off as easily, so it's more likely to stay on there instead of graze you. I think Boss Rutan said that. Don't quote me for sure. But there are guys who believe from their experience that actually you can slip the punches and they'll graze off your face a little better when you don't have a beard. So I don't know. I've been punched with and without beards. When I'm getting punched, I'm not able to analyze, the minute differences of how it felt one way versus the other. That's not even what I'm thinking about at the time, So I don't even have a personal opinion. I'm really not sure. you may be right, the other side may be right, it may be an individual thing, I don't know, you know. But if I feel like growing a beard, I just grow a beard. You know, I'm not going to worry about the minute possible details of a punch. Punches are. Now, I know my record says otherwise. I've never actually been knocked out. I went unconscious in a fight once because I cut 20 pounds in 2 days. My electrolytes were so bad when I got the adrenaline dump. I actually ducked some punches, took the guy down, and as we went to the ground, I blacked out. I didn't hit my head. I didn't knock myself out. My body shut down and did a reboot, and it was crazy. And I know now that, you know, electrolyte loss and extreme dehydration can do some crazy ass shit when you have an adrenaline dump. And I'm sure I'm not the only fighter that's figured that out the hard way. But anyway, I was sort of flash knocked out once when I was young. A tall metal beam that was really heavy. Somebody had picked it up, some kids, and then they dropped it, and I happened to be standing nearby facing the other direction, and it came down and hit me on the back of the head, and it slammed me. It followed through, and it smacked me clear into the ground. And then I bounced up, and I pushed it off me, and I didn't really understand what had just happened. It was a flash knockout. I saw like a blue light, and I automatically shoved this thing off me and got up off the ground onto my feet so fast that nobody realized I'd been knocked out, but I kind of knew it because for a second there, just for a moment, it's like wham, and I didn't know who I was. Now, I have gone unconscious for other reasons, as I mentioned earlier, a few different times in my life where I blacked out or passed out for different reasons. So I know what it's like to wake up and sort of not remember where you are and be like, what am I doing here? And then it all starts coming back, you know. In my experience, it's actually a very peaceful situation. You're waking up, you feel all rested. You can be in the middle of the war, but because you were just unconscious, you kind of get this reset and you wake up all calm, like, what am I doing here? Oh, now I remember, you know. Anyway, just sharing. Okay, so moving on from those questions, good questions. Pyro has a question here. Do you utilize any herbs or similar pre-fight to increase certain characteristics? Farmer related, but it's well known that halo test is quite often used to increase aggression, etc. I wonder what your thoughts were on the matter. Yeah, I've heard that. Halo test, and I've heard of check drops. Supposedly a lot of fighters use them. And I know that's probably true. I've known a lot of fighters, both pro and amateur, who, you know, openly, not to the public, but openly in the locker room discuss their steroid use and stuff. And, you know, it's hilarious what a high percentage of fighters and probably other sports use steroids and automatically assume that it's improving them, where I can't tell how it is, to be honest. So as far as the aggression, yes, that could help certain people. There would have been times where it would have helped me. I've actually lost fights because I wasn't angry enough and I didn't get hit enough to get in the fight before it was over and I was choked out or something. I'm the kind of guy that once I'm in the fight, you're in big trouble. Like, if I make it to halfway through round one, now I'm starting to come on fire, and now things just go downhill for you. The water just gets deeper. I'm like a diesel engine. The better I get going, the better I get going, and the more I like it, and I'll drag you out into some place you don't want to be. So if I don't get assassinated right away, it's bad news, because then I really get in the fight. So having a way to get yourself kind of pissed and over aggressive at the beginning, in some cases that could make a real difference. Now, I haven't tried any, you know, hormones for that. I haven't tried anything to piss myself off. I have definitely tried some herbs that made a difference. I found that rhodiola, the adaptogen, really, when I took a big dose before a fight run one time, I was in like the perfect, and I don't know if it was just the batch or the brand or what it was, but I was in the perfect state. Cardio was easier. I was calmer. I was more mentally focused and perfect. Everything just felt right. So I can, you know, say one time that really helped me. I've noticed that in training, even when I'm lacking sleep, exhausted and this and that, Go-To Cola has helped me to continually learn and stay sharp mentally even when I'm really tired and exhausted. But I don't know about Go-To before a fight. It's probably a little too relaxing. So the only one I remember using that definitely I noticed it helped was rhodiola. So you can try that. But hey, Korean ginseng should help. It's a good tonic yang herb. Maybe certain types of mushrooms like cordyceps and reishi. You know, I'll be doing more experiments with all this for sure, and I'll let you guys know what my thoughts are as they continue to expand through experience. Good questions, very good. Um, as far as people using drugs in sports, it's always going to be that way, and everybody knows it. And promotions make big money off of juiced up looking guys. They do. They pretend to discipline, they pretend to be against it, but if you're a circus freak, obnoxious person, like say a Brock Lesnar, um, you can get a shot at the title you didn't earn just because of the way you look and the fact that you're already famous and you're really noisy and people know your name. You will get hired by the ultimate fucktard circus, and you will get paid massive amounts of money just because they make money off of you. So in the real world, people are going to continue to use these things because they actually do receive sometimes massive benefits to their goals in life. Um, and once in a while, you know, they fail a test. And when you're that wealthy, the way I understand it, there's a lot of ways to pass tests. Most guys who take gear don't fail their tests. So I don't, you know, I don't know. I don't know who makes what mistake and why and whatever. I just know that steroid and other so-called PED use is rampant. Personally, I don't think steroids make fighters that much better, unless your problem was you were just, you know, wimpy. You know, like you just lacked bulk and strength or something. It might help you fill in that slice of the pie, I guess. But I haven't personally seen it make guys better that I've known. It made them stronger. It also made them a little slower and made their cardio a little worse. So I don't, you know, granted, I know there's a lot of different drugs out there, and there are ones that can improve cardio, reaction times. Those are the ones I'd be more concerned about as far as unfair advantage. There's guys that use cocaine for fights. I mean, meth, probably, you know, serious athletes, high name people. So everything goes on. It's always been that way. It's always going to be that way. I'm not going to bitch about it. Um, I'm the kind of person that says, fine, you know, stop trying to regulate everything because adult humans got to make their own choices. If I choose to compete without that thing, then I have no right to really complain that the other guys compete with it. I mean, what's my excuse, right? But when you have rules that you're supposed to follow and say, I'm following the rules and the other guy's not, now that gives me some kind of right to complain and say the fight should be reversed and all this. It's weird. I don't personally get involved and I don't really care about all that. My path of performance enhancement involves things from nature, most of which they haven't gone out of their way to illegalize yet. When it gets to the point they're doing that, I'm going to be pretty fucking pissed, to be honest, because these things are healthy for mind, body, and spirit. And yes, there are lots of herbs that have performance enhancing benefits, hands down, absolutely, for sure. So if you get good enough as an herbalist, you're going to have very real performance enhancement, strength, stamina, even more importantly, probably mental clarity and focus. Say on fight night, not so much for training, but when it comes to the fight, it's really the mental focus on what matters and blocking out everything that doesn't. That's a big, big challenge, regardless of what your body's ready to do. So, I don't believe that the man-made PEDs have higher potential to improve performance than the holistically made by source PEDs that I'm into. I don't believe that, so I don't worry about it. I don't feel petty about it. I don't feel like complaining about it. And the cool thing about the PEDs that I'm into is they are slowly but surely improving my health, intelligence, wisdom, well-being as an organism over time. Whereas the man-made ones, they may make you more successful in the short term, but because they're man-made and they always cheat something out of nature to do it, you're always cheating a part of your own physical or mental nature in some way. Maybe it doesn't catch up with you at first, but down the line you start to pay for it. So I'm just not into any of those things myself, you know. That said, I believe, to hell with regulations, I think all adults should have the right to put whatever in their own body, not to force it on anybody else. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I stand on that kind of stuff. Those are my thoughts. Cool questions. Mad Gang, Med Gang, how do you train right now to maintain your musculature? This is an interesting question. Um, I'm glad you think I've maintained my musculature. If we're talking mass, I definitely haven't. I don't own a scale, so I'm going to have to guess here, but I'm guessing I'm easily 50, 60 pounds lighter than, my last bodybuilding related type channel. And the thing is, I'm still very muscular, yes, um, but I'm just a lot lighter. So I have not maintained mass. And the way I train now there is a playlist on this channel, Mystical Martial Arts Force Development, where I show the kinds of things that I use now for strength training. But those things are not really designed to add mass like a bodybuilder. They're really only designed to improve the mass you have and make it more functional for kicking ass, basically. Now, I do assess my physique in the mirror, and if I feel like I have some vanity and I have some artist in me, so if I look at a certain muscle group and it's just lagging and I don't like the way it looks, I'll do a little something to bring it up so that aesthetically I like the way I look a little better. Not trying to be massive at all. I'm cutting, I'm shrinking, I'm condensing. I have no idea where I'm going in weight class and I don't care. But I will do things to kind of reshape myself in a way that I think looks better sometimes. But basically, all my strength training related stuff pertains to fighting. It either makes me punch harder or, you know, be quicker on my feet or have more endurance in a muscle group that, really requires high endurance as a fighter. I'll give you a random example. It's not random. Deltoids. When you're a fighter, both grappling and striking, your deltoids are going to become fatigued a lot more than your other upper body muscles in the vast majority of cases. So I do quite a bit of deltoid training, both endurance and strength. Over time, I expect my delts to pop more and more compared to the rest of my body. I can already see a difference, and I think that's going to become more pronounced. But I've let arm mass shrink quite a bit because the heavier your arms are, the slower you can throw them. Just like sprinters. Who are the fastest sprinters? Do they have gigantic beefy calves? Hell no, those guys are slow as shit. Fast sprinters have, high set calf muscles that are small and dense. Maybe they bulge and pop well, but the total mass is low compared to somebody with big old fat cankle calves that could probably pull a cart through a snowy field better or something else. Same with punching. So my arms, the way I train arms, has to do with functional strength and not having mass, really. So density's good, strength and functional strength is good, but I don't want any extra mass that's only going to slow me down. It does not help you as a fighter. Um, when you add the ratio of strength and mass to your deltoids, and you actually shrink some of the mass off your arms, because I used to have well over 20-inch arms, as some of you know. Well, those actually get in your way. They shorten up some of your punches, they slow you down. It looks cool, and maybe you'll get paid more even as a worse fighter because of how you look. But, I'm more interested in the movement. I get into actual martial arts, and when something's limiting me, I don't really like that. So I'm redesigning my body to perform and function more and more the dynamic functions I need it to function. That said, I'll always be muscular because that's just who I am in my nature. And I don't think after 20 plus years of the kind of muscle density and maturity I have, I don't think there's any way I'll ever be not muscular. But um, if you're wondering like how many days a week I do what muscle group, almost there's almost nothing outside of this MMA training I'm currently doing. I do some shoulder reps here and there. I might do a quick chest workout, mostly isometrics or static contraction training just for strength. Um, I'll do a little bit of back work, like variations of pull-ups here and there. Maybe once a week, I'll do some kind of pull-up based workout, and I'll use different variations. Because as a fighter, especially when it comes to grappling, there's a lot of things you do that pull-up type functional strength is very helpful with. Controlling opponents, um, grappling with people different ways. My lower body sprints, sometimes I'll wrap occlusion bands around my legs and just do field work, believe it or not, just to kind of pump them up and fatigue them for hours. Kicking, strangely enough, my quads have started popping and separating better. Now, granted, I'm smaller, but they've started to pop and separate better lately, just from the way I'm moving, jumping, and kicking this striking totem. And remember that you cannot gauge the intensity somebody's putting into, say, a kick unless you're the one getting kicked by it. It's really hard to gauge. You're looking at me striking an item that's very solid. It doesn't give much. It's like a tree with some metal and then very little padding. Look at this knuckle, okay? This is a sunken knuckle, so most of the weight hits here. This one's like 3 times as big as it was a couple months ago because it keeps getting mashed. I have sore bones in my hands that are growing. So what I'm hitting, you may not realize how hard I'm hitting it sometimes, and you may not realize that a person with enough fast twitch and nervous system can throw punches and kicks so hard that you can make those muscles sore and actually develop from it. I've had plenty of sessions where, depending on what, if I was focusing on a lot of hard hooks, let's say, and I'm putting my body and really whipping that hook, when I hit that post that doesn't give, my bicep is being hyperextended while flexed. So I'm doing an extreme negative. I'm ripping the muscle fibers. I have sore biceps from that. How many of you guys have seen how some of the world's best punchers, not all, it depends on your punching style, but some of the world's hardest hitters have really good biceps. Granted, they usually lift weights too, but not always. Hooks and uppercuts. If you have extreme hook and uppercut strength, yes, you know how to put your legs into it. Yes, you know how to put your core into it. You probably have good biceps too. Just, it goes with the territory. You have to. There's just front delts, a good boxing. Like some of these days when my pad out here is really wet and I can't do as much dynamic footwork and jump kicks and flying knees and things as I might want to, I tend to just focus on throwing punches in the pocket, as they say, a little more. Sometimes just from within 30 minutes, I may put in 3, 4, 5 good different flurries of punches, and I'm throwing them so hard that the next day I have good soreness in my front delts, better than most bodybuilding related front deltoid workouts I remember doing. So if I was eating as a bodybuilder, I'd probably have some of the biggest front delts right now I've ever had. That said, again, I'm not about bodybuilding. I want all the dead weight off my body. Think about a performance airplane or a performance car. You want only the functional power of the thing, and any pound or ounce of weight that you can shed off that thing by drilling some holes in this plate here, or maybe replacing this chunk of stuff with something aluminum. Any way you can figure out how to lighten that thing, the performance gets better. It's now faster. It's now more explosive, right? So that's how I think. Any dead weight that's just extra padding I don't need, it may puff me up. It may make me look more intimidating. That doesn't work on good fighters anyway, okay? You're not going to win by, doing the pec flex when you go into a fight. If he's competent, he's going to laugh at you and then kick your ass. So, again, being that I'm not trying to be a spectacle who gets paid for how he looks, I'm actually interested in true martial arts, developing my own style, improving it. So my strength training is all based on that. And everything I do has a very specific purpose. So if you watch that playlist, you could ask me any one of those exercises, how does this pay off in fighting? And I could tell you for me how I know that exercise applies to me and my fighting style, okay? Even the truck press, the one where I set the back of my Forerunner on I built a little platform under it so I wouldn't bend the bumper. I still bent the bumper, but I thought I was going to avoid that. But I built this platform, I put it on my back, I got under it, and I managed to press it enough to get it to barely come off the ground where the back wheels started moving. And I was at the end of the range of motion on my arms, or I would have gone further. I have no idea. That was probably at least 1,500 pounds added to my back. And when you start lifting it, of course, you're not lifting all the weight. Might have been 800, I don't know. But it's the same as a punch. If I'm throwing a big old hook out here with my hands at a similar placement of width away from my body from where I did that truck press push-up thing, whatever you want to call it, the force out here where I'm trying to land that hook on you is at its max. It's somewhere in this range where I'm used to landing hard hooks. So that specific exercise means if I can go like this and land one of these haymakers or these overhands on you, and either I'm setting up a take-up takedown, or I'm faking a takedown just so you can start to drop your hands and I can land that overhand on you. If I can land that thing on you, you're done. You know, you're done. You're done in that fight. So everything now that's only applicable at certain moments in certain fights, but it's one tool. So everything I do has specific meaning to the way I know myself as a fighter and what I'm working to improve, both strengths and weaknesses, because you should always be improving both. You improve your strengths because offensively they can help you win fights quickly and effectively. You improve your weaknesses because those are costing you fights and you want to fill those holes, right? Fill those holes in your game. So, I've rambled on about that long enough. Cool question. Next one, Metaspace. I need help with light gyno. Any supplements or added exercises? That's almost not related to this channel, but I guess it's close enough. In the past, I used to design supplement stacks for people just for that, and a lot of them came back with positive results. Off the top of my head right now, I'm not going to be reckless and throw things out there. I would need to do a little research and stack something together, but the truth is, you have access to the same internet I do. Now, maybe you lack confidence in your own research skills and you wouldn't really know where to begin or what to put together. So I would say if you want to make a donation to me, we can talk by email. I'll have a few key questions for you to help me figure out probably the parameters of what you're dealing with and why. And then I'd have some really good advice and, stack together some info of what I would do in your shoes, okay? Outside of that, if I want to just be vague and careful, I would say research natural substances from nature, herbal substances with a natural estrogen lowering potential. Whether they occupy the receptor as a weaker estrogen and lower the overall estrogen potential of what's hitting your receptors, or they actually clear extra estrogen molecules from the body. Both types of things do exist in nature. Ideally, you'd probably want to stack some of them. Just make sure they're healthy herbs that are known to have other positive health effects and get them from good sources. And if you do that, how can you really go wrong? Even if for some reason it wasn't strong enough or it wasn't the right combination to fix your gyno issue, it would only add some kind of vitality to your body because you're putting healthy organic herbs in you. And then you try again with a different stack or you add something. There are supplements that can also help that are not herbs, but they're natural, healthy supplements. When I construct an anti-gyno stack, which I've done, like I said, for many, many people, especially young guys in the past, growing up in a very toxic world, we've had a lot of really good results, okay? I cannot ever guarantee anything because every case is slightly different, but everybody I ever worked with had positive results, and many of them it completely resolved it. Some of them it only partially resolved it from what I remember, but they were still happy that it made a big difference. And, so those are kind of your options. That's all I can tell you with an open-ended question like that, without more particulars of who you are in your situation, where your mind's at, what your lifestyle is, what toxicities are most likely in it, what mental and emotional toxicities even. Everything comes into play, but I'd have to know your particulars a lot better before I could construct something for you. And I am not one of these guys who writes a book or a stack of this and that and just sells it to everybody. In the past, I wrote some really good stacks for specific things and I sold them for a while. And then everybody else got so jealous because they were way too stupid to come up with something like that. And they all slandered me all over the internet. 9 out of 10 sheep believed them. And it's just, I don't do stuff like that anymore. If people want my health now, we work it out privately. So it's between me and the person that deserves it, not a bunch of shit-flinging trolls out there, if you know what I mean. Much love to you and respect. Let me know if that's something you're interested in. If you want some private consultation for reasonable donation, we could work it out. Metaspace has this one here. Oh, no, that you are Metaspace. Okay, cool. Thanks for the question, Metaspace. Let me know where we go from there. Raised through trees, summer breeze. What's your spiritual routine like now? Well, I can't say I have a routine. I'm not really when it comes to this, because here's my thing. I am a spiritual being, above physical and mental. Because the way we know physical and mental from the human experience are human. And human I'm not. Human's a temporary situation I've chosen to endeavor in. So the real me, the bigger me, is a spiritual thing. It's an eternal thing. And it's bigger than I can fathom with my human mind. And it's bigger than I can live up to with my human body. But the bigger I open my mind, the better my body and my mind open up to more of what I really am spiritually. And that means there's more overall potential for creativity of a constructive nature. So I don't ever have a routine. I just kind of go by feel on that. I try to listen. I notice that when I'm struggling with things like anxiety or stress, I will reach out to that higher source more. Both the parts that I believe to be individually me, as well as where I believe that kind of branches into the bigger picture of the great all. And I will ask for help and I will pay attention. And if I really do ask sincerely for guidance, I always get it. And if I'm open to what I get and I don't have my mind made up ahead of time what I think it should be, the guidance is always very, very helpful. So without having a routine or any rules, because I believe rules are, again, the mind of man. It's the monkey. It creates religion, and then everybody starts murdering each other over their false, narrow-minded idea of what their source is. And I just can't do it. I can't. The spiritual limitlessness of what we really come from is so great that I could never begin to describe it or comprehend it from a human position, nor could anyone else. I am spiritually aware enough to at least know that. Therefore, I cannot put it in any box. I cannot put any shackles on it. I will not limit it for anyone by making a routine out of it. That said, what are some healthy things? The topic of meditation, I will say this. I slip into a meditative state of mind sometimes that has nothing to do with a ritual. I don't have to go sit somewhere and cross my legs, and I don't have to breathe a certain way, although breathing can help. Deep breathing is always helpful for kind of opening your mind and relaxing and receiving better. But I don't have any rules for it, but I would say find a way to be in a meditative, receptive state of mind at least part of the time in life, and you'll find that what you let in is vital to find a way to ground it more into your life. Hopefully that makes sense. And I don't even want to talk anymore because I don't want my own human ego or ideas to limit the potential of the spiritual limitless source that we actually come from. I got to leave it at that so I'm not in the way of the grander possibility for any of us. I don't want to limit any of you. My own spirituality is what you might call more expanded and free than the vast majority of people on this planet. But we're talking about something that's limitless, so I can't possibly do it any justice. I would just say, find a way to make yourself more open to something that is infinitely better than you think or know that it is, and stop letting human beings ruin that by defining it in their own petty image. Spirituality. All right. Love you, man. Good question. All right. Any other questions so far on the thread here? Oh, okay. Los Vatos, I will look for yours under D-Man's. Grim, do you have a question? Not right now. Just some good compliments and so forth, it looks like. Let me know if I missed anything there. So I think the last one will be up here under D-Man's comment. It's loading. Give this this crappy satellite signal a second here. If you want to give up some of the regulations and control of living in the system, you also have to put up with the inconvenience of not having as much tech, not having as much things to buy at your convenience. It's a trade-off, and I'll take it any day. I still have enough internet to be connected with you guys, and that's enough for me. All right, so your question was, I think this is our last one today. Thank you to whoever timestamps this beast. Thank you sincerely. Okay, how would you do this if you were me? Goal is to become a hulking killing machine, orc warrior type guy, but not a muscle blob. I'm still working on hearth training. I think you probably mean heart training. You've been playing some Warcraft. You said orc and hearth in the same sentence. Anyway, before I get myself distracted here. Um, I feel it's beneficial the stronger my heart is, the more muscles can support on the body. Absolutely. Let's use a few examples as fighters, since this channel's about martial arts. Fighters a lot of people have seen who have watched MMA. Let's take Brock Lesnar, because one impressive thing about him is that for the millions of dollars probably of juice and other growth drugs he's put through himself over the years, he has kept his cardio, he has pushed his cardio, he has trained his cardio, and he probably was genetically strong there to start with, I'm guessing. He has a very impressive gas tank for his mass. Most guys that have added the kind of mass to their frame that he has suck at cardio. And I don't mean to sound like a dick, because I respect these guys as fighters and athletes, and whatever they choose to do is their own thing. But look at somebody like, say, Bobby Lashley, okay? Watch some of his fights. Now, do you think he could be any kind of a matchup for Brock Lesnar? No, he couldn't. They both have a lot of muscle mass. They both look, Bobby probably actually looks better aesthetically, but his gas tank sucks. Another example is James Thompson from, I think that's his name, from England. James the Colossus Thompson, big old meat stick of a guy, probably spends more than half the time he should be practicing at fighting, pumping iron in the gym with bodybuilders. And that's what I don't get. Why would you want to be half-ass at both things when you could be a lot better at one of them if you would choose what's more important to you? But guys like that have added who knows how many pounds of mass over the years to their frame, their heart is not really that big. Their heart doesn't look like their body looks. Or if it's enlarged at this point, it's enlarged in an unhealthy way. The flow of blood is not that good. The heart is not pumping it that efficiently. So now you have this big, scary muscle beast who really can't fight very far at all before he's so gassed that he's starting to let you beat the shit out of him. A guy like that, all you got to do is wear him down a little bit, wrestle with him for 1 round or less, and then tee off on his ass. And that's just the truth. Look what happened when Lesnar fought Carwin. Similar size, everybody's hyping him up, oh, the two biggest, whatever. I've trained right next to Carwin. He's not as big in real life as he looks on TV. That tells me Brock isn't either. But either way, Carwin knocked everybody out in his fights until he met Brock. He did not realize that he did not have a good gas tank. He did not have the heart to go with that body. Sure, he's strong. He's been lifting weights forever. He's got lots of explosive power. He had accurate punches. So what happened? Round 1, he attacks Brock like a fireball, knocks him down, almost manages to pound him out, but Brock defended it enough. With his big old meaty arms, he managed to partially block enough of those ground and pound punches that he didn't go out. So Shane literally throws bombs for an entire 5 minutes or something, Shane Carwin. But that was his amateur mistake. Because it was so easy for him to get there and knock everybody out, he never tested his own cardio. Between rounds, he could not recover. He was turning blue. He was dying. He came out for round 2, and Brock just gently took him down and choked him out. Because trust me, the worst thing in the world is to have somebody start choking you when you're already dying for oxygen. And that was the end of it. And Shane had to go to the hospital after that because he thought he was dying. That is what happens when you don't understand that your heart should be your strongest muscle. It is the most important one. Your body frame muscles as a fighter are only as good as how long your heart can pump through that much extra beef. Furthermore, like I've mentioned about agility, if your muscles start getting in the way of all that, that's a different limitation. If my neighbor's music goes loud, I'm going to have to pause this video because it copyright infringes and they won't let me post it. So if there's a delay here, that's why. I'll quickly pause it. I'll jump back in when they're done with most of their little party throwdowns are pretty short. I'll go do some yard work and come back if that gets loud. So anyway, how would you go about it? If you want to be as big and bodybuilder-like and yet as gas tank-like as a fighter as possible, you just have to properly train those priorities the best you can. I would say cardio is king. Start there. Remember that whatever you set up in your week of workouts, whatever you believe you're able to recover from, and always adjust that according to what you learn as you go. Make your cardio-related training and your stamina-related training as a fighter Number one. That's numero uno. Numero dos is putting meat on you to look cool and to maybe have a little bit of, try to train it in a way that's functional. You know, don't, if you really want that extra muscle to help you as a fighter, make sure the way you're building it is somehow related to fighting, because most of what goes on in meathead lifting is not. Yes, there are more and more fighters these days getting into building up their muscles, probably taking a lot of drugs doing it. But if they have a smart training camp, which most of them do, and that's who does all their thinking for them in most cases, they will try to design the way they're building muscle to be applicable in some way to fighting. Okay? So those are the basics I can give you. Cardio and stamina is king. That's A number one. Make this your strongest muscle for sure, because it's feeding these ones and they'll die. Everything dies without it. I don't care how strong you look on the outside. You're really only as strong. Your true strength as a warrior is your heart, metaphorically and physically. How much heart do you have? Look at it on both levels. Because if you haven't done it yet, the first time you truly gas in a fight and you lay there and let somebody smash your face, which I've done, I have laid there and let people break my nose and continue to pound on my face because I didn't even feel that anymore compared to how much I hurt on the inside. I didn't care. I'd rather lay there and let you beat me to death than even try to move one more time. I have been that deep in oxygen debt, and it is so much more painful than getting your arm snapped, than getting your face beat until you can't chew for a month. I've done all these things. The kind of pain that comes from internal oxygen deprivation, the kind of horror that causes is far beyond anything your opponent can do to you. So if you really are looking at actual fight capacity, always remember the heart is king. And then from there, second priority can be, being the big, bulky, strong. And I'm not really sure what physique you're picturing, but just remember, you got arguments out there on how to build big muscles as a bodybuilder. You got like people that say more the high volume Arnold camp. I'm not really sure how well Arnold fit into that. You got a lot of nerds talking these days who probably don't even lift and just like to make YouTube content comparing this so-called ideology to that one. But you got people in this high volume, moderate weight camp, and then you got people in the low volume, high intensity camp. Now, in fighting, the truth is you need it all. The high intensity shit gives you that kind of knockout or choke out power. And yes, that's epically good and everything, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. You can get away with not having supreme power and still be a very high level fighter if you have enough muscular endurance and you're smart enough to use it well, okay? I've seen more fighters go further who lack knockout power and don't really ever overpower anybody in weird positions with just brute strength. I've seen that get a lot further than guys who have all explosive and no cardio. They don't get very far at all, okay? Because if they can't knock you out in the first 30 seconds, their game plan is foiled. If you can see it coming and not let them do their one-trick pony thing to you, they're in big trouble. And they're going to wish they were not in there. After a little while, when their heart starts to die, they're going to wish they wouldn't have taken the fight, and then you are going to have the opportunity to make a highlight reel all over them. Okay? That's all I can say. I think that covers the questions. I'm going to get out of here before the music gets loud. Much love to everybody. Keep dropping these good topics on the Q&A thread. Over and out for now. From the jungle, from the Divergent One. Much love, honor, and strength to everybody.